Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to more adventure, more fun. Let's go. And we are back. We got a cup of coffee. We got the airplane. Let's go. It's going to be a beautiful day. We got a lot to talk about. It's probably going to be a long video as always. First office, let's go. Come alive. Time to go to work. The startup sounds that you're hearing here are the relays kicking over and then the avionics fans kicking on for cooling the avionics equipment. A quick little walkthrough. This is one of our T models. I've shown you guys this before. What was that? Oh, it was just... Oh, all right. It was just, I thought it looked like it was broken. This is what you call a wake-up procedure. A mechanic will go through the cabin, the outside, the flight deck, and check everything after the overnight stay has been done. This is done as a precautionary because we don't want last-minute gate calls. We want to make sure everything's good to go. We want to make sure the overall condition of the aircraft is ready to fly. All right, well, walking up to the next one. The air conditioning hose fell off. It's all right, not a big deal. I just turn it off. In order to reinstall it, it just comes up over here. A couple of latches here, you'll see it right here. Not a big deal. Right there, it just hooks up. No biggie. Let's put this back on and turn it on so we'll have some air conditioning. There you go. Yes, it's connected. Alrighty. Turn it back on. Air conditioning unit will start working. There you go. And just make sure it doesn't have any kinks. There you go. That's good. See? That's how it hooks up there. Anyway, let's go upstairs, make sure everything's okay up there. This is a old 319. This is actually one of our old America West birds. Look at that. Yeah, nice. Yeah, this thing is definitely on the old bird. It's even got the old configuration of the flight attendant panel. That's funny. The new ones are all LCD. You guys have seen that, the touch screens. Look at that. It's like stepping into the past in this one. Called the basic models. All the cluster is still steam gauges or analog. It's even got the little bugs. Well, that's what they call them, little marker points or reference points. Pilots can just kind of put them where they need as a reference point. The newer one that has the digital version of this, you can have that you can input that digitally, the bugs, and they really are called bugs. So, but this is the old style of doing it. Pretty cool, huh? Hey, if it works, it works. That's funny. I know somebody's going to say, why haven't they upgraded this? Because it works. There's no need to upgrade it. It still works. I'm sure at one point or another they will upgrade it to the more digital. This thing is so old that it still has the openings for where they used to have the ovens. It's all been deactivated now, but yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, she's an old bird, that's for sure. I'm sure you've noticed I've been repeating the same thing over and over here. I keep saying the airplane is old. It is old, but I don't want you to get scared or deter you from flying. The age of the aircraft have no significance in safety. Why do I say this? Because as long as proper maintenance is being performed on that aircraft will literally last forever. But at one point or another, the cost effectiveness of an aircraft will outlast its worth. What does that mean? It means that the cost of making that aircraft functioning, performing, maintained all the time is going to outweigh its performance, as in its money-making value. That means it costs more for you to keep on repairing that airplane than the revenue it brings in. At that point, that's when airplanes basically get decommissioned. I hope you get that, right? But old airplanes doesn't mean anything. As long as airplanes keep getting maintained properly, you are good to fly. Everything's A-okay. There's airplanes out there that are flying that are 30, 40, almost 50 years old. Somebody asked me about the tiller on an Airbus and they said, what's that little circle thing on top? That's called a pedal disconnect. First of all, the tiller is there to maneuver the aircraft, no steering. You can also do it via the pedals, as I've talked about it before, but limited angles. But what the button is there for is to disconnect the pedal movement from the rudder. This is for flight control maneuverability checks. When the aircraft is taxiing, pilots usually perform a flight control check. One of those checks is for the rudder. Now remember, the pedals control the steering of the nose wheel as well as the rudder. In order to separate those two functions while on the ground, pilot must press that little button, which will disconnect the nose wheel steering, and they can just use the tiller, and they can do a flight control maneuver check on the rudder. That's all it's there for. Just to clarify, the flight control maneuverability via the pedals, basically preventing any kind of steering issues while performing that task. Isolates the systems. I think I made it enough clear at this point. Okay, let's keep going. Now, I've talked about the guidance systems before, and you see that? I zoomed in this time really close. There's a little mirror that's kind of bouncing back and forth. It's trying to detect the aircraft. Now, I'm not exactly sure how this works. I'm guessing it's some kind of a radar system and bouncing back forth of light, but there's also a little panel at the base of the jet bridge where you can select the type of aircraft that's coming in so it auto detects. Okay, let's freeze it right here and talk about this real quick. A lot of you saw the previous video, and I showed this before, when an aircraft is making a very tight turn, especially got to do with narrow body aircraft. Most notably, this happens on 320 families. This is an interesting phenomenon. This is almost reaching its maximum angle of turn. And the way the landing gear, the nose landing gear is placed in that aircraft, it's slightly tilted forward. And when the nose gear is being turned to that extreme angle, believe it or not, one of those nose wheels will come off the ground eventually. But very short time though. It's okay. It's okay for the aircraft to do this. It's normal operation. This isn't the only airplane that can do this. If you ever seen an MD-80, that will also do it. Or 717. Even DC-10s and MD-11s can do this. Don't get me wrong, every mechanic that stands there and watches this happen, we are just cringing to our bones because we know those nose tires are getting pushed to their limits. We're just standing there like, please stop turning like that. Please stop turning like that, because it's eating the tread off of the tires. But it's okay. If it wears out, we change it out. Not a big deal. But the thing is, there's no damage to the aircraft. Okay, there's another little comical factor to this. And when you turn that wheel that degree, one of them, as I said, lifts off the ground. You can actually change a nose wheel like this. I'm talking about desperate measures here. I mean, you better be stuck on a desert island or some outstation where you need to get the airplane out. I don't know, man. Don't listen to me. It's not legal. It's not per aircraft maintenance manual. I just know that it can be done. Don't ask me how I know it can be done, but I know it can be done. But yeah, that's the comical factor. Woo, that's a tight turn. Come on. You can do it. Pause it right there. Okay, you see that little bulge on the outboard side of the engine? There's a reason for that little bulge. So the way the CFM Leap 1A is designed is because of its massive bypass ratio and the way the gearbox is shaped around the engine itself, that little bulge is there to compensate for the size of the IDG, the integrated drive generator. It's so massive, they have to augment the fan cowling to make it a little bit more rounded on that side of the engine, make sure that it fits. So that's why you see that little bulge on the side of that engine. So that's pretty much it. Man, this thing must have gone through a swarm of bugs. Woo! All over the place. Look at that. Bugs are a nuisance. They create this. They create a mess. That's all they pretty much do. Unlike a bird strikes will create damage. I'm going to make a video on bird strikes later on. Don't worry, I'll include it into one of my next videos. As far as bugs go, they just make a mess. That's about it. A little bit of hot water or some alcohol, they'll clean it right off. But I'm not really concerned about the engine intake cowling. The biggest concern would be the windshield because that obscures the pilot's vision. And the other one, that's usually the pitot tubes, the tubes that measure the aircraft's airspeed, but they rarely ever go into there. Yeah, they really went through a bug storm. That's all right. That's easy. There you go, nice and clean. All right, next bus. Let's see now. We actually got a little bit of an issue here. Why the brake temperature sensors is not reading. For some reason, the audio got muffled up. What I was trying to say is that number 3 brake temperature sensor is not reading at all. So we're gonna do a bite check and do a reset. Yeah, it's definitely a bad probe. It's jumping around too much.
It's 500 now. Look at this one.
Yeah, that's it. That probe is toast. That's. We did the reset and it all came back. The parameters came back, but look at the fluctuations of the parameters on the number 3 brake. It's jumping into 700 degrees. That's impossible. If the brake was 700 degrees, that's pretty much reaching engine temperatures. So what that means is all the fuse plugs in the tire would have blown. That brake is basically melting at that point, but it's not because it's erroneous data. This is an example of basic troubleshooting tactics. Understanding the factor that the brake is reading at a 700 degree, but everything else is fine. The brake has not melted, the tire is intact. I even went downstairs to look at it physically just to observe. The brake was completely fine and even cool to the touch. The common sense is bad brake temperature probe. Now this was MELable, I could have deferred it, but we had ground time, we had the parts, so I opted out to change it out. Yeah, it's getting as hot as an engine now. That's funny. I try to do my best to capture all of this, and I did a very poor job at it. But it gives me an excuse to get the video going and explain to you how the brake temperature sensor actually works. There are 4 brake temperature sensors, 1 per wheel, or 1 per brake, I should say. The unit itself is basically a thermocouple, or the specific name is a chromel-alumel thermocouple. It senses temperature because of the dissimilar metals within the probe, and it will send a voltage to a very specific computer, which is called the BSCU, Brake Steering Control Unit. This also coincides with the brake monitoring unit. Once again, all these systems all tie in together. The aircraft talks to itself. The temperature sensor is held on by one single bolt. It takes an Allen key or an Allen wrench to remove it. It also has safety wire on there. Yep, that's it. All right, I'm gonna slave it in. Go look upstairs, see if it's working. What you are looking at there is the brand new brake temperature sensor unit. So I told my partner I'm going to slave it in. What that means is I'm not going to fully install this into the brake assembly itself yet. I want to plug it in first. I want to make sure I'm getting the proper temperature sensor indication within the flight deck, because who knows, it might not be the brake temperature sensor. It could be wiring as well. So it just eliminates another cause of fault. So I said, I'm going to slave it in, go upstairs, check it out. And once he did, he called me, gave me a thumbs up. I said, good to go. Then I fully installed it. And if you're curious where this actually belongs, it's literally underneath the landing gear of the aircraft. Look, that's the forward portion of the aircraft. That's the aft portion of the aircraft. And I am underneath the landing gear, right where the wheels are. That's where this little brake temperature sensor lives. So yeah, fun. All right, got the old one out. Got the new one slaved in. My partner's upstairs. Fun. Looks like everything's working. Now we put this thing back in. Held down by one screw right there. Alright, that's it. Wheel page.
Wheel page, yeah.
Wheel page. There it is. Back to normal. Got it fixed. All in a day's work. Now check this out. I was walking from my gate, and then I was walking by one of our Neos, and then I take a look at the nose number. 950. We don't have any Neos that have 950 registration. And I think I know what this is. This is the Alaska birds. Yep. This is ex-Alaska Airlines. Hey, finders keepers. Alaska, you should have never sold your Neos. Now they're all mine. They all belong to me. Look at this. Their service doors are even different. These are not like ours. Our service doors are different. Interesting. How about that? Oh, it's going to be fun working on these. Oops, sorry about that. It's going to be fun. I wonder what other little differences I can find. Oh, that's different. Oh, wow, that's completely different. This is not how ours were. The seats are different, the partitions are different. A quick little correction here. I keep saying ex-Alaska bird, but it actually originated from ex-Virgin America bird. When Alaska bought Virgin America, or the merger occurred, whichever way you want to look at it, they inherited their Airbus fleet. For some reason, Alaska wants to go back to its roots and being proudly Boeing, because now they sold off all of their Airbus fleet and they went back to all being 737s. When something like that happens, other airlines will capitalize on this because they're getting a good deal, especially with these Neos. These are fairly brand new airplanes. The reasoning, from my understanding, is to sell off that fleet type is to standardize. So Alaska wants to go full Boeing fleet and to standardize their fleet type. So all 737s, that means you have standardized training, one type of aircraft for pilots, for mechanics. This also means parts. You don't have to have a diversity of parts. So you don't have to have separate parts for Airbus. You don't have to have separate parts for Boeing 737s. Now you just all have 737 parts. It's more cost effective like this. So there's an upside and a downside to this kind of tactic. The upside is, as I said, very cost effective and it's very streamlined. The downside to this is, let's say by any chance that fleet type gets grounded. Well, guess what? Your whole fleet just got grounded. If you diversify a bit and you kept your, let's say, Airbus fleet, you're still making revenue. You can still make money while the other fleet type it gets, recertified back into airworthiness condition. There's also the extreme case of it. Like, take for example, United and Delta. Very, very diverse fleet types. They pretty much almost have every kind. On that level, it becomes very difficult to have it cost effective. That means you have to have certifications for almost every kind of aircraft and parts for every kind of aircraft. That's a very difficult operation to run. But they managed to do it very efficiently, so that's a good job on them. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is going to be interesting getting used to. Very interesting. Huh. How about that? What? They even have a monitor up here? We didn't have these on ours. Very cool. Even the lavatory configurations are completely different. Huh, how about that? Even the tray tables are different. And I'm just curious why it says, it shouldn't say EO. It is a NEO, but I guess maybe it's not registered or approved to go ETOPS yet. Yeah. Lav configuration is different. Everything is different. How about that? They got the camera system. It's pretty cool. But it's deactivated. Oh man, that is cool. Well, we're gonna have some fun with this, aren't we? From my understanding, they're gonna keep the configuration like this for a little bit, but eventually the interior is gonna get changed out and get standardized to our Oasis type of interior. But for now, they're gonna get the aircraft back into revenue service because it needs to make money. And the other cool feature that I showed right before this surveillance system, I've never seen that before. I've seen it in pictures, I've seen it in videos, but I've never actually seen it in the Airbus for myself. So that was very cool to see that and, look at it. Obviously, it's been deactivated because it's not needed, but yeah, anyway, it's an interesting little feature. It's an option that Airbus offers. So yeah, but again, I was glad to see it. This is going to be interesting learning about this aircraft and the interior and how to work on it. Because again, different types of seats, different configurations. So it's going to be a new challenge, especially for us maintenance technicians. So it's going to be fun. Okay, it's enough of me babbling about this whole interior in this airplane. Let's go see some cool cars. And I've said it once, I'll say it again, I'll keep on saying it. Cargo does not disappoint. Ooh-wee. Man, oh man, I tell you what, we're stacked today. That is insane. Yeah. This is, I'm guessing, a pure race car. Yeah. Incredible. Another beautiful Ferrari. But yeah, this thing is, what is that? This is purely built for racing. Man, oh man. But that's not all. We got more. Let's go around this way. I'm assuming another Tesla truck. Yep, that's another gold wing. Woo. These are very rare. I know that for a fact. These are incredibly rare cars. Very nice condition as well. Huh. Beautiful condition. A nice Porsche right next to it. I think this is another Singer. Yeah, probably is. Yeah, it is. There it is. Beautiful. And I think this, yeah, this is a Ferrari. Dino? Or maybe I might be wrong. Man. I don't know if you guys can see her now. That is beautiful. No, it's not a Ferrari. I'm sorry. I messed up. Whatever this is. Actually, I don't know what this is. But these two are probably Ferraris, but these are supercars, I'm guessing. Got the numbers on them. 44. I can't make this one out. Maybe a 4. But yeah, whatever these things are that are covered, these are definitely supercars. Beautiful. It's not over. We got more Zingers. Or Singer, sorry, Singer. Nice color. Look at this. I tell you what, I was starting to believe the people that transport these cars, or have these cars, they got some deep pockets. It's at least a couple of $1 million there. And then you got just this. This is ridiculous. Another Rizvani, but this one's a pickup truck version. And it's a 6-wheeler. Are you kidding me? This is just bonkers. Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. Yeah, this is somebody's toy. Jeez. Unreal. And right next to it, you got a Mercedes G-Wagon. This is absolutely mind-blowing to me. I mean, this is thousands and thousands of dollars here of machinery. They modified the heck out of this thing. I can only imagine what this would be used for, but I don't know. Somebody, again, like I said, somebody's got some deep pockets and they have some nice toys, but yeah, it's fun to see this kind of stuff. I'm glad I'm able to share it with you. The 6x6 G65. Yeah, well, I guess if you got the money. This thing is just customized to the maximum. I can't reach that high, but it's got some special interior. Anyway. See? Cargo never disappoints. Pretty amazing. And then you got a couple of door stops over here. All right. Let's go. That was enough fun. Later on, I stopped by while fueling one of our vehicles, and there was another Ferrari sitting out there, and took the opportunity to show you guys around it. Back in the 737, as usual. Seems like this is my favorite place to hang out. Hideout. Just joking. Give it a little. You gotta have fun. You gotta have fun. All right, let's take a look at you. All right, stop for me. Stop. Stop. I said stop. Behave. Behave. There you go. Atta girl. There you go. Now I can take a look at it. Yeah, if you ever want to stop the blades for a small engine, just squeeze the center. Don't go straight for the blades. That'll hurt your hands. Sometimes they are sharp, but this one is not. So we're good. There's a bunch of bugs though. Looking good. This is a 737-800, and what you're looking at there is the APU intake door. The thing that's sticking out is part of the door, and it's called a vortex generator. The door functions very simply. It just opens up to allow air into the intake and into the load compressor. Now, the reason they have that vortex generator sticking out is for ram recovery. It allows for smooth airflow into the APU, and to clarify, in the air when the aircraft is flying. It also creates a pressure difference. This prevents the APU from windmilling when they're trying to start in flight. Now let's take a look at the exhaust portion of the APU. You'll notice two holes. We're going to compare this to the MAX because there's one sitting right next door. Now stick with me on this one. I'm going to make it make sense. Okay, so the bottom hole is the exhaust. The top hole is called the eductor cooling system. So the way this works is as the APU is running, the exhaust portion is flowing air out at a high velocity, right? It's creating a negative pressure to the eductor. As it's creating negative pressure, it's sucking air out of the top hole. In turn, this is pulling air out of the APU compartment. Not only is it cooling down the APU compartment, it's also cooling the air when it goes through the oil cooler of the APU. Now let's go take a look at the 737 MAX and you'll see the change. immediately you'll realize the difference in the intake. You're going to say, Stig, you're crazy. Why are you comparing the intake to the exhaust? Now watch closely. Do you see it? Look close. Notice something? There's two intakes. One for the APU intake, and guess what the other one is? The one lower. Exactly. It's an inductor system. They completely repositioned it. They took it out of the exhaust, the tail cone, and they put it right next to the APU intake door. And it functions the same way for compartment cooling and for the oil cooler. Now, instead of using negative pressure, they're using positive pressure. It's an intake, ram air style. And here's what the exhaust looks like for the APU on the 737 MAX. Look at it. It looks so much better. And this is another way you can differentiate between the two models, the NG and the MAX.
I wonder why they shut it down. This thing's going right back out. That's all good. All right. So far, so good. Walk around was good. Just check the quick parameters right here.
Also, I think I remember somebody asking they wanted to hear the GPWS test on the 737.
Let's try it.
Flight slope. Pull up. Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain in up. Airspeed low.
It's not the full test because certain parameters are not set, but it gives you an idea. Now, I can't remember if I've talked about this before, but I'm going to bring it up again because it was asked. Somebody asked about the flight deck voice recorder. Let's talk about it. So the panel itself, the little black little circle, that is the microphone. You have an erase button, you have a test button, you have the jack for the headphones, and a status light. The unit is there to record whatever is going on, the activity within the flight deck. Self-explanatory, voice recorder. The unit has limited amount of memory in there. It will eventually erase the communication data automatically. But you also have a manual erase button. You see, the unit only keeps 120 minutes of data in there. Now, the only way you can erase that data is if the aircraft is on the ground and the parking brakes are set. So to any of you thinking, oh, a pilot is going to be all dubious and all secretive and try to erase a voice recording while they're flying, no, it's not going to happen. The erase button is simply there when the aircraft finally gets done with its flight, a new flight crew shows up, they have the capability of erasing the old data so they can have a fresh new recording for their next flight. The test button is pretty much self-explanatory. Again, you test the system. Pilots test the system on every flight, or the beginning of the flight, I should say. And another little interesting little feature on this, the CVR is actually tied into the clock of the aircraft. It basically timestamps itself. But yeah, that's about it. That's your voice recorder, or most of the functions. Now, come on, we got a tire to change. Let's go.
Next office. Oh man, that is bald as a baby's behind. Now we gotta change that. That ain't flying. Yeah, we'll change that out. Woo! She's bald. All right, let's go get the gear pins. Already got the tooling. Got the jack. So yeah, we'll get it done. This is easy. Like changing a bicycle tire. Let's see now. Where is it?
All safety precautions are being taken. I'm installing a gear down lock pin. This prevents of any kind of inadvertent gear movement. Remember, I'm jacking this aircraft up just slightly, but I do not want that landing gear to collapse and fall on top of my head. That will lock out the pivot point. There's other safety precautions I already took. I just didn't get a chance to film it, but I'm following aircraft maintenance manual procedures. The process is fairly simple. Actually, it's really easy. Like I said, changing a bicycle tire probably is harder than this. Once jacked up to a sufficient height, now we start disassembly. There are 2 screws right there that need to be removed, then the nut comes off, and then the washer behind the nut. One thing I failed to show here is to remove air pressure from the tire, which I already did here. Once we remove those 2 screws, now it's time to remove the nut itself and the washer. Meanwhile, I'm doing this, the disassembly portion. My partner is gathering the brand new wheel assembly from our stores department. And here you go, that's what the washer looks like. After which we put on something called a thread protector. This protects the threads of the axle. When removing the wheels, we don't want any kind of scuffing or damage to those threads. This prevents any kind of cross-threading when reinstalling. A quick inspection of the axle as well, and a re-lubrication of the riding surfaces where the bearings sit. Here's a quick look at the wheel assembly dismounted from the axle. I just wanted to show you guys a quick little view of front and back of the wheel assembly itself. So there you go, pretty easy. Notice what I did there? I made sure the orientation of the tire is correct. The valve stem has to be facing outwards. It's very easy to get that confused and put the wheel on incorrectly. Just attention to details. That's all what I'm trying to say is attention to details. Anyway, we don't need a dolly because the wheel itself is so lightweight. So I basically kind of manhandled it and put it back on there. Once secured properly on the axle, I remove the thread protector and proceed on to putting on the washer back on and then the nut. Afterwards, the torquing process begins. There's 2 torque values. The initial torque, while the tire is being spun, to seat the bearings, and then re-loosen it, and then re-torque it to its final value. So you're going to find this a little bit comical. So the initial torque value for the 737-800 nose wheel assembly is 80 to 100 foot-pounds. As I said, you spin it while you're torquing it. That seats the bearings. Now, you loosen it up back to 0, and then you retorque it again to its final torque value, which is only 30 foot-pounds. That's it. Once that's done, the nut and the washer need to align because those 2 little screws need to be installed. Not always do they align 100%. You can keep tightening that nut up to 60 foot-pounds, not beyond. This is in order to just get those holes lined up so you can install those screws. And the purpose for the screws is for anti-rotation. Keeps the nut in place, locked with the washer. And on top of that, it gets safety wired as well, which is kind of funny. You'll see what happens.
Just a little bit more. A little bit more. Awesome.
Once the wheel assembly has been properly torqued and installed, the need for the jack is no longer necessary. We can bring the aircraft back down. Knowing and learning how to properly safety wire is one of the basic fundamentals of being an aircraft maintenance technician. You need to learn this if you are getting into this craft. But the funny part here is that as much as you do it, as perfectionist as you are, there's always times where you mess up, and you're gonna see me mess up right here, which is quite hilarious because I laugh at my own self. Let's go look at this.
damn it.
Right?
Broke the safety wire. Rookie, what a rookie.
And my interview here was New York years ago. I did that. I broke it the last fall. I was so nervous.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Rookie of the year right here. Can't believe I just did that.
You're human. You're a mechanic.
25 years fixing airplanes, guys. 25 years of fixing airplanes, and yes, even a person like me can do that. No harm to the airplane, obviously. I just gotta take off the old broken safety wire and get a new one going. But it's 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 a humbling moment right there. Yeah, get good, Stig. Get good. What a rookie. Anyway, finished up safety wiring all of this. Got it all buttoned up and good to go. That's about it. That's a very simple job. Like I said, this is not a hard job to do. It's just follow the maintenance manuals, follow procedures, and just work at your own pace. The more you do it, the faster you'll get at it and more proficient you'll get at it. So that's just the way it works. So whoever's getting into this line of work, don't be intimidated. Take your time, read the manuals, understand your manuals, and if you're still confused, ask questions. Always ask questions, guys.
And that's that. Brand new tire. Easy. But thing is, usually we'll change both of them at the same time, but this one, thing is, this one's got so much more life on it left, it would be a shame to waste a tire. So they got pretty much almost even amount of wear at this point. This one already looks brand new, so it'd be a shame, it'd be a waste of a tire to change this as well. Pretty much the same amount of wear, so. But if this was worn out as well, just as much as this one, I would have changed both of them at the same time. It's rare that this happens. 99% of the time we change them both, but this is a exception. Anyway, good to go.
As I said, this is a very rare occurrence that this happens, that we only change one. 95% of the time, or even more percentile than that, we'll change both because they usually have even wear. Once in a while, one will wear more than the other. It just depends on, the turning of the aircraft, how it lands, those kind of factors. But essentially, I didn't need to change the right-hand wheel assembly or the tire. It was still good. It looked brand new, basically. And the other thing I know somebody's going to mention, somebody's going to pay attention because you guys are so attentive to details, which I love this crowd. You guys are so awesome. Somebody's going to point out the tread. They're not the same. Notice the tread wear, the pattern is not the same. Believe it or not, that's completely okay. It has no significant impact on how the aircraft steers or anything like that. The wheel assembly is effective to that fleet type. It's allowed like this. Sometimes you get parts that are exactly identical part numbers, and sometimes you'll get part numbers that are higher assembly that are still within effectivity of that aircraft. They might look different, but they function the same way. Make sense? All right. We're back on the bus. Actually, this is going to be the last flight of the night, guys. Yeah, this one's a pretty quick turn. Came in, it's going to go right back out. Everything is good to go on this one. Hope you guys had fun. We saw lots of cool stuff. Did lots of cool stuff. But I'll see you bright and early in the morning. All right? Don't forget the coffee. Later. Good morning, everybody. Let's go. This time we're international. And here come all our beautiful birds. In they come, one by one. Whew, it's gonna be a busy day. Ain't that beautiful? First office, one of our beautiful Neos. This one just came up from the hangar, so just do a quick little double check. As always, the usual. And I love how big the bypass is on these things. Since we're with this beautiful aircraft and this beautiful engine, the CFM LEAP 1A, equipped on the 321neo aircraft, let's take a look at the high bypass, and I want to point out this little hole right here. Somebody asked about this. Let's explain. This little opening within the high bypass leads to something called a fan air valve. Now, this is part of the pneumatic system, which is part of ATA Chapter 36, and it's very convoluted. It's densely packed with lots of information. I'm going to try to simplify this for you. There's three primary valves for this system when it comes down to the engine or the pneumatic systems of the engine. There is the PRV, pressure regulating valve, the OPV, overpressure valve, and then there's this, the FAV, fan air valve. All of these valves regulate the pressure within the compressor section, or I should say the high pressure compressor, the HPC. To simplify it, everything in this system works in upstream and downstream. Let me explain. Downstream of the pressure regulating valve, an overpressure valve is installed to prevent any kind of pneumatic systems against damage in case an overpressure occurs within the compressor. To keep the temperatures at its proper limits, the fan air valves is installed. This creates a cooling air duct which supplies fan air to the pre-cooler heat exchanger. That is that thing on top of the engine. If you ever flown on one of these aircraft and you look over at the top of the engine and you see those little louvers, that's the heat exchanger. All of this is being controlled by a computer, obviously. It's called the BMC, Bleed Monitoring Computer. Again, a very complex system that intertwines itself within ATA chapters of the engines, which are chapter 70s and down, but it also talks to chapter 36. It's very difficult to get a good grasp on this. Even I sometimes have trouble with this, but that is the best way I can explain it so you can understand it of how the bleed monitoring and the functions occur within this type of aircraft. And to be honest with you, it's pretty much all standard throughout most aircraft, just like this. The only thing that you really need to understand about this is that it's regulating pressure and regulating air that's going in and out of that engine. That's pretty much it.
Here we go. Next office. Alright, well, this one just came in, but it's going to stay here for a little bit. Got to give it a little bit of oil. No big deal. It's It's gonna go leave later on today in the afternoon around like 2 o'clock. I think it's the Heathrow flight. So just a quick little walk around, make sure everything's okay. I'll take it to the hangar. But after this one, there you go. Next, Plastic Princess. We'll go check that one out.
Here we go. Back in our Plastic Princess. Let's get some power.
Well, Plastic Princess is being temperamental this morning, and the auxiliary power unit is in up on this one. So that means you have, well, not you, me, and Ramp have to use the third power port. That's right, you didn't know. 787 has a third power port, and that's the only way you can start these engines.
No, Stig, you're lying once again. Okay, guys, let me clarify. Yes, you can start with 2 power ports, but it's advisable to utilize the third power port on the 787. Remember I told you, the 787 is a bleedless aircraft. No bleed air coming from the APU. It's an electric start. The engines have variable frequency starter generators. In order to get those generators to start turning, it takes immense amount of power. I can't even begin to describe what kind of a power hog the 787 is. If you don't give this aircraft proper power, full, clean, proper power, it will start load shedding systems like crazy. It will say, nope, I don't need that, I don't need that, I don't need that. I'm only going to focus on what I need, and it will cause lots of faults, lots of problems. It is a very temperamental aircraft, very sensitive to power. That's why most of the time we run the APU on the 787 and we don't even bother with ground power. In this particular situation, the APU was inoperable or not working basically. So we had to put it on MEL, minimum equipment list, which is completely legal. The aircraft was not going into international airspace. It was just a domestic flight, which is completely fine. But in order to get the aircraft going and get the engine started, we opted to use the third ground power port in order to give the airplane full proper power. And if you don't get full proper power, the engine sequence startup may take much longer and you'll get a lot more load shedding that occurs within the aircraft systems. And in order to prevent that, again, we use the third power port. While I waited for the ground power unit to show up for the third power port, I wanted to give a little comfort to this beautiful animal.
Oh, you're the cutest thing in the world. Hi, Mama. It's okay, don't be scared. You're gonna be just fine. You're gonna be just fine. You're just gonna be just fine. You're such a good dog. Such a good dog. Such a pretty dog.
That beautiful dog is going to be perfectly fine. They're going to be loading that animal into the bulk cargo, which is heated and pressurized. Anyway, back to the power unit. We got the ground power unit over here. We got it installed or plugged in. We're getting proper power now. And now we're going to go through with the engine startup sequence. The only way we can do this is to start the number 2 engine because the number 1 engine is obstructed. There's objects. The ground power unit is behind the number 1 engine. So number 2 engine has to be started first, and then the aircraft will get pushed back. Now let's listen to this. engine finally spools up and gets under its own power, it's self-sufficient. Now it's time to pull the ground power cord on the third receptacle in the back, get clear of all the obstruction, and the aircraft will get pushed back. Simple as that. The pilots will utilize the power from the running engine because remember, VFSG, variable frequency starter generator, it now is powering up all of the aircraft's power, and they can use that power to start the other engine. I need your guys' opinion right here. You know, my videos are getting longer and longer. This is pushing into like 98 minutes of film. Would you like me to split this up into 3, maybe 4 pieces? If it's becoming too long and I don't know, I guess attention spans, or if you get bored of this, it's becoming a too long of a video, let me know. I want your opinion down in the comments. Let me know what you guys want. I can split this up into, like I said, 3 or 4 different segments of the weekend Stig shift. So please let me know down below. Thanks. All right, looking good, looking good. Man, what else can I talk about over here? I think I've pretty much talked about everything in this airplane for you guys. Oh, almost everything. You know, I probably mentioned this too before. See that right there? This is the only place that I've been finding or ever found the words Boeing on a 737-800. I can't find the words Boeing written anywhere here. Like that. Interesting, right? And the registration plate doesn't matter, it doesn't count. But embedded into the aircraft. That's the only place that you can find it in the flight deck. Funny. Well, this is a good bird. No issues here. I think this is going out to Raleigh-Durham, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, good to go. Most important, the tie and hat racks, make sure they're working. Just joking. All right, let's go to the next one. I had a little bit of downtime, so I just hung out by the ramp and waited on my aircraft to get dispatched and leave. But in the meantime, I like to sit around and just enjoy the airplanes, I guess. The weather was beautiful, and so are the airplanes. You know, stop and smell the roses.
next office. Woo.
Back of the bus. No, literally, back of the Airbus. Somebody was asking, they wanted to see the different types of emergency equipment that's available on pretty much most airplanes. Well, let's see. You got your standard fire extinguishing bottles. These are Halon 1210, I believe. Got a megaphone right there. Test it out right there. You got a crew PBE, basically a shielded hood for the crew member so they can put it on right there. Just pull. We got to make sure these seals are there. Let's see now. Emergency equipment for the flight attendants. They got their own flashlights and their own life vests. Pretty much every seat has them. What else? Let's see. You got a fire containment bag. Let's say your phone catches on fire. You got a fire containment bag with gloves and everything. Let's see. You also will see a lot of these. And by the way, everything is labeled where it is. So everything is labeled. That's a first aid kit. I'm not gonna bust. Oh, let's see. You can see what's in it. That's pretty much it. Make sure the seal is there. It's good to go. And let's see now. I'm gonna put that back in a second. Down here, you can have oxygen bottles. And I've showed you these before. And they got the masks inside right here. And these are scattered all across the cabin. And let's see now, what else you have? You have more PBE. Let's put this back. There you go. There you go. And all across the cabin, again, you'll have majority of the same stuff. Down here, again, for the flight attendants, life vests, you'll have more oxygen bottles probably scattered all over the place. Again, you got to look for the labels. More fire extinguishers right there, always labeled. More oxygen bottles, labeled. Let's see. You also have, let's see, where is it? Should be here. Oh, here it is. More first aid kits, more oxygen bottles. So you got stuff all over the place. Oh, up front, you also have these. These are interesting. I think there's like gloves and gloves inside there and grab and go kit. I think there's a hazmat kit in here as well. And this is also an important one right here. This is called the IMK, the in-flight medical kit. And this has got like aspirin, like EpiPen, whatever you need. That's all in here. Also, make sure we got to check to make sure the seal is here, and you got to make sure that's here as well. That's got also a stethoscope in there. Oh, and another important one right here. You got a defibrillator. You got a defibrillator. Pretty cool. And last but not least, you got infant life vests. another, yeah, this is another fire bag. There you go. These are infant life vests. But yeah, lots of emergency equipment. The bigger the airplane, the more equipment. And if it's an ETOPS aircraft, even more equipment because going over water. So extended operations. There's your emergency equipment. Told you, it's a lot. Not to mention, flight deck has its own. Not to mention that. But yeah, overall, this is a good bird. All right. Well, one more day comes to an end. There wasn't too much going on today, but still pretty good. Hope you guys had fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later. Welcome back to another day. Let's go. Here comes the first office. Well, interestingly enough, today is going to be an interesting day because not really working on airplanes, there's going to be moving airplanes. It's going to be on the brake riding team today. So, why not? All right, let's get this airplane ready to go. Close this door. And set this all up where we need it. APU's already running, which is good. We'll set up the transponder, get the beacon going, get the hydraulic pump going, monitor the radios, and then we'll have a tug and tow bar down there, or a super tug down there, that's going to reposition us to a different portion of the airport where maintenance is going to be done later on for this aircraft, because this one's staying here overnight. But yeah, that's pretty much it going to be for the rest of my day. This and a couple of more airplanes. Easy. All right, while we wait until they close all the doors, we can disengage the ground power. We don't need it anymore. We're on APU power. Take that off. You can see available, and confirm that all the doors are closed. And then I'll get a visual cue from downstairs that ground power is clear to disconnect. There you go, ground power is disconnected, and they're hoisting it back up. Pretty easy. And now we wait for that right there, the tow team. There they are. I'm gonna use that new super tug. We'll have them on radio here in a second. Set it to intercom. I want to take a moment and pause before we get into the rest of this day, and a moment of appreciation and a moment of solitude, because this was Monday and this was Memorial Day. Why do we honor this day? It's because we honor the men and women that have fallen in battle, defending what they believe that is right and true. And so happened to be this aircraft showed up by coincidence. Funny enough, the Medal of Honor aircraft. This is our homage. It's a flagship aircraft, and it's an honor to the men and women that have fallen in a line of duty in our military service. We take this day to understand the ultimate sacrifice from these people. Many of my fellow coworkers are veterans, and they have served in wartime as well. I know Memorial Day is there to honor the ones that have fallen, but I also need to thank the men and women that serve this country so diligently and with honor. It's something that not everybody can do. So a thank you is in order. A moment of silence to the fallen. I salute every single service member. We got to get back to work, guys. All right, time to move some airplanes. Let's go. Okay, jet bridge is pulled. Super tug is connected down there. You can't see it, it's under the nose, but it's there. Let's see, I already got connected. I got confirmation from downstairs. The beacon is on. Hydraulics are going. ATC transponder is set. A dent? Sure, why not? Make it ping. That's it. The rest will be handled downstairs. I'm here just to monitor, make sure everything goes smoothly. Easy. And obviously, I forgot to mention, the brakes are off. You just kind of lift and turn. That's how you engage and disengage brakes on an Airbus. Here we go. I want to reiterate the fact that this is not under its own power. Aircraft is not under its own power. We are being towed. I am a brake rider. Just in case something malfunctions, something happens, if there's a breakdown or we get disconnected, I am there to monitor the aircraft because the APU is running first and foremost, and then the aircraft is alive. And also the hydraulics are running and I am in charge of the brakes. So in case something does occur within the aircraft, I need to be up there to make sure I can stop the aircraft. The tow team is responsible for the communication at this point. I am an observer, I am a monitor. Don't get me wrong, this is a lot of fun, but this is not the routine thing that I usually do. This was actually the first time I got assigned to this brake rider role because this is a new program they're doing within our station. So RAM personnel will move the aircraft as the tow team, and you'll have a maintenance personnel, a mechanic on board to monitor the systems. Before it was a little bit different. Before we used to be responsible for the whole thing. We would actually we would tow sometimes, but majority of the time we would taxi the aircraft under its own aircraft power. And yes, to anybody that is curious, yes, we're all, well, not all, let me rephrase this. Majority of us are qualified to taxi and tow aircraft. It became a logistical improvement, or I don't know if you want to call it an improvement. It became a logistical factor where we have to delegate work between ramp and maintenance now, which is completely fine because it frees some people up to do other portions of job scopes. You know what I mean? Point being is that this is the way it is right now, and I'll give you also another example. The example is if in case the aircraft is needed to be moved for aircraft maintenance purposes, only aircraft maintenance will move it, as in we will tow it either for us, like the mechanics will push the aircraft out or will taxi the aircraft back to its designated location or where it needs to go. But other than that, if it's normal operations, we will work as a team with the ramp personnel. So that's the way it works. Right now, this aircraft is being towed, as I said earlier, to a remote area of the airport because the aircraft is it's going to stay overnight and it's going to have maintenance performed to it. But overall, that's the gist of it. So it's going to be a couple of more airplanes like this. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Not very exciting. I know there's not much going on right now. So I'm just I'm just kind of sitting there and observing.
Ground department, go ahead, set on the thing. Flight to the ground, brakes are set. Good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. That's about it. That was easy, right? Yeah, got to do a couple more of these and that should be it. And last thing I got to do obviously is turn off hydraulics, turn off the beacon right there. I don't need the beacon anymore. Turn off the Adderus. I don't need that anymore. And then shut down the aircraft. First, turn off the bleed air and let the APU cool down for a second. Once that happens, you just turn the APU off via the master switch. Super simple. Fun. Oh, don't worry. I didn't forget. Always don't ever forget to turn off the emergency exit lights off from armed to off. Very important. Or else you'll have all the emergency exit lights on. It will look like this. All these little lights will stay on. Yeah, then you'll drain the batteries. That's not a good thing. Okay, after you shut down Airbuses, this is an interesting thing, especially the 320 family. You gotta wait like at least 3 to 5 minutes before you take the batteries offline, because there's still power going to the APU intake door. The intake door has to close, or close, whichever. It's got to close first, so you got to give it like 3 to 5 minutes for it to fully close. And yeah, and then that's it. You take the batteries offline and on to the next one. Let's go. Here comes the next move. Airplane number 2.
Turn right on taxiway Charlie and proceed.
You don't need ground power anymore.
Turn right on Charlie and westward.
There's the big old tow truck. Getting ready. Gonna lift it up and we're gonna go. Just waiting for the call for them to connect. Easy. As we were moving, and I noticed the big old flying building right there holding short for little old me. It's the way it works. Our airport operations or airport tower, they designate who goes and who moves. They are in charge of this, so we're constantly monitoring the radios and watching. So it was a good opportunity right there. Beautiful airplane to see, especially off to your side window right there, out of a little Airbus to the big bus right there. So that was fun. Situations are always fluid. And when I say fluid, that's what I mean. All of a sudden, I got notification that the parking destination that we're going to is no longer available. We needed to turn around. The driver communicated this with me and told me, hey, we got to make a U-turn. We got to go back to the other side of the airport because our original parking spot is no longer available. So
Hence why you saw the U-turn. All right, another successful trip. Let's see now. Hydraulics off, beacon off, and we can turn the APU off now. And airplane number 3. Let's go. Hoppa! Oh, 737 doors. So awkward. Hello. Alrighty, let's go. Get this one set up, ready to go. Let's see, APU is already running. We're good to go. We don't need no ground power. We can kill that. Get the radios ready. All right, let's get the radio set up. That up. Put the speaker up. It's already set to flight, so good. Everything's ready to go. Flight to the ground, go ahead.
Are we all set down here? Are you ready?
Ready, clear for hydraulics?
Yeah, go ahead, he's clear.
There we go. Hydraulics coming on.
Okay,
Ready for brakes off?
ready for brakes.
Brakes released. Brakes released.
Brakes are released, thank you. 152 Super at Papa, give it American. Papa, give it American, Indiana 162 Super. Second 162, turn left on Charlie, hold short of Lima. Left on Charlie, short of Lima, we'll go 162. Hold short of Charlie 10. Charlie and hold short of Charlie 10, American 42 Roll. Touch your 455, turn right on November, hold short November 2, contact ground point 65. Right, turn on November, hold short November 2, 12165, much as 155. Ground unit 2385, top of Charlie 7, ready for taxi. Touch Cookshire Scots 4888, November North Route, ground point 65. November North Route, ground point 65, Scots 4888. Ground United 2385, top of Charlie 7. 2385 on the ground, give way to company, right to left on Bravo, and then Bravo to 25 right. Alright, we'll give way to company on Bravo, and then Bravo to 25 right, 2385. 2385, take you to the Yankees, current altimeter is 004. John 152 Super, turn left on Lima, hold short key to 1, contact city ramp. American 42 Bravo, you go to Charlie 15, you said? Affirmative. 42 Bravo, proceed via Charlie, hold short of Kilo. Charlie, hold short of Kilo, American 42 Bravo.
Yeah, we're 3387 short of Charlie after 66, gates open.
Sky 3287, looks like they just push out the gate, continue on Charlie and hold short of Charlie 6 for now, please.
Charlie short, Charlie 6, side Sky West 3387.
Ground Scout 3387, just to let you know, the ramper said that they were going to push it deep so we can come into the gate as soon as possible. We'll go straight to our gate. Yeah, great. They're going to go deep for you. Sky West 3387, Charlie to the map.
Charlie to the ramp, Sky West 33.
I figured I'd be quiet a little bit, and you guys heard enough of my talking anyway. I wanted you guys to enjoy the communication between airport tower and the people that are on the ground, the other aircraft, live aircraft, pilots, and as well as taxi tow teams. So yeah, that's about it. Once we arrived at our destination, the aircraft had to be backed into the parking spot, so I just kind of waited until they backed us into the proper position, and then they gave me the go-ahead that they're going to disconnect. Then I do the same procedural thing. Turn off the hydraulics, turn off the beacon, making sure the aircraft is shut down correctly. Let's see. Get the lights going again. Hydraulics off. And turn off the beacon, and that's about it. And we'll just turn off the APU as well. Let's see now. Easy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. We are at the end of our shift, and this was the last of my airplanes for that day. Well, it's the end of this week, end of this adventure. Hope you all had fun. I know it wasn't too exciting today, just moving airplanes around, but it was fun. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later. That about wraps it up for this week, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, learned something new, and what can I say? I am always appreciative of every single one of you. Make sure to just leave your comments down below, ask questions. I'm always here for you. I'll try to get back to you sooner or later. I know sometimes it's a busy day, but I always get back to you. But there you go. And a beautiful A340 taking off. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for participating, and thank you all for coming along on this adventure with me. Adventure of aviation, aircraft maintenance, and adventure of life, I suppose. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Later.